Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open in Atlanta, part of the SCG Tour. I'm Nick Miller alongside Andy Ferguson. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. Always good to see you when we come down to Atlanta in this area.
Yeah.
You're always playing a brew of sorts. You're usually attacking, and for the most part, you've been playing Collected Company, a card you are very familiar with.
Yeah. I like the card a lot.
This weekend, you're using Collected Company to find a bunch of the new cards from Oath of the Gatewatch, and you started this tournament off on quite the hot streak.
Well, actually, I lost the first round. And then the hot streak.
Until
so,
then,
yes.
and you dethroned the only undefeated player.
Yes.
So you're doing pretty good. There's a couple rounds left. Your X2
Yep.
losses are against Jerry, and then your round one opponent. So
Yep.
you're in pretty good shape
Yeah,
here.
it's not the worst.
Let's
that's for
talk
sure.
about this deck. You've got a Abzan Megamorph shell, so you've got the Dim Protector, Deathmiss Raptor shenanigans going on, but you got a bunch of new cards. We want to talk about all of them. Sylvan Advocate, the new Tarmogoyf people like to throw around. I don't know if it's quite lived up to that hype, but everyone I've seen playing it says they're happy with it.
It's insane. I love it, yeah. There's so many net positives for the card. Not being able to be Fiery Impulsed on turn 2 right away is very good. It also just in the late game becomes a huge threat. My deck doesn't have rhinos in it, so this is kind of can tangle with rhinos a little bit, which is nice. Also, I have 6 manlands in the deck, and it pumps those up. In combo with Nissa, and then I guess we'll talk about Matter Reshaper. You can get to the lands on 6 almost every time, so it's been very, very good. Plus the Vigilance makes it a great blocker.
Yeah, that's one thing, no Rhino. You have no misses in this deck for Collected Company. Every creature you have will come into play, so you're kind of going with that strategy. Matter Reshaper, the other all-star here we've seen, 3 mana. We see this, we expect this out of the Eldrazi deck, but you have a bunch of the Pain lands in your deck, so you're able to support this, play it on curve, and keep the value train going.
I'm a little low on colorless lands, so I've got 8 Pain lands, the 4 Wastes and 4 Caves, but then also can be hit with Company if I can't play it. So it's been really, really good today. Because of the fact that I'm a Collected Company deck, all of my permanents cost 3 or less, which just goes along very nicely with the Reshaper, just putting them into play.
Not only are your Cocos always hitting, but your Matter Reshaper's always hitting. You're always putting the card into play, so it's pretty advantageous there.
Yes.
Next up, we got Isla, the Eternal Pilgrim. We see this card popping up in the Rally decks, but also in your deck. Seems very good with just all the little combinations. Of course, you got the synergy with Matter Reshaper itself. How good has that card been today?
You can prevent any of your Deathmiss Raptor or your Reshaper from being exiled by something like Silk Wrap or Abzan Charm, so it protects those. Also, it gains you life. As you said, we have a lot of Pain lands in here, so it can be nice to gain life in a pinch. Also against a Tarka Red, something like that's very useful. It's a 2/3 body for 2. Again, doesn't get Fiery Impulse right away. It's just been great as well. Plus the Death Touch is also extremely relevant. I don't have many slots for removal in the deck because I'm a Collected Company deck, so I run 4 Damoka's Command, which is kind of the most all-purpose card you can have. And the more Death Touch creatures you run, the better that card is. So Eiley also goes.
Have you got to use the Vindicate ability yet? That's what we all want to know.
No, sadly I have not. The Pain lands kind of prevent you from getting too far up above 20, but mostly below 20. So.
All right. Well, maybe one day.
Maybe one day, that'd be cool.
Of course, rounded out, you got Nissa and, Anafinza shutting down, Rally, and that types of things.
Well, so that was the original intent of the deck, was just Anafinza is great right now. Everyone's hyping up Rally to be the best deck, and I've seen a lot of it in this tournament. So Anafinza with Collected Company gives you kind of a pseudo 8 Anafinzas, if you're lucky. But it's at least a higher likelihood to get Anafinza every game, and she's just so good at shutting the Rally deck down. If you can just keep churning them out, eventually they'll run out of answers for her, and you can just win the game from there pretty easily.
Rally is the most represented deck on day 2 here, almost 20% of the field. So I imagine you like your matchup with Rally with this type of deck.
I've beaten it twice against 2 pretty good players, so so far it's been nice. Obviously the Rally is just insanely strong, so I can't imagine my matchup is too overwhelmingly favored in my direction, but that's what we're trying to do, just put Anafinza in play and cross her fingers. So.
Yeah, you said your removal and Sword of Tricks, Abzan Charm, and Jamoka's Command. And the other new one, we got Hissing Quagmire in here, along with Shambling Vent, so you're pairing up all of the Abzan creature lands.
Indeed.
I mean, we all know Shambling Vent's great. How has the Quagmire been?
It's not great. Shambling Vents is definitely better. But again, Death Touch is really good when you're fighting other creatures. It can just be a removal spell for any creature when they're bigger than yours. I only have 2 Hissing Quagmires and 4 of the Vents, so the Quagmires, it gets killed by a slash or an impulse pretty easily. But again, you want to have as many creature lands as possible to go along with your advocate too. So.
Okay. Let's move on to the sideboard. You got a bunch of Duress and Ration Clerics for control and sort of Bernie matchups.
Yeah.
Other card that we want to talk about, Warping Whale.
Yeah,
kind of stands out in your sideboard, but how good has it been?
Well, I thought, I have the 8 pain lands. Let's because supposedly you can counter a sorcery, which against ramp, if you counter explosive vegetation, you're doing real well. And then against rally, you can exile a creature and exile like a Jace or a Cutthroat, and exiling is really good against that deck. In practice, I've actually stopped boarding it in. I think my deck against both of those decks just wants to curve out as much as possible, and being reactive can kind of slow things down, which you don't really want to do against rally or ramp. So, in theory, it's good though, and maybe in a different deck it'd be a lot better. So,
well, you're 10-2. We got 3 rounds left. With that many rounds under your belt, are there any changes you're looking to make, or anything you want to switch up with the deck?
Yeah, Nissa has not been great. I think probably another aggressive creature in that slot. I tested Eldrazi Displacer at first because I have the colorless lands. It's a guy that bounces things. Doesn't have much value with my creatures, but I think that card might be good as like a 2-of to kind of tap down opposing creatures and kind of get in for more damage. So I might try that in Nissa's slot or something else.
Sure. Also can save your creatures from removal too. So
maybe another Warden. Curving out's always good. I've only got 2 Wardens. A third might be good to kind of handle Jaces in the early game with Dromoka's command. So that's in the main deck. And the sideboard's been iffy, so we can just leave it at that.
Yeah, it needs a little bit of work, but it's week 1. The deck looks great. You're off to a great start. Shooting for your second top 8, I believe, here on the SCG Tour. So we wish you the best of luck. Andy, thanks for joining me here in the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Atlanta.